All right, so I think we should get started. So hello, everyone. My name is Vlas, and I'm Chief Operating Officer at Silicon Valley Innovation Center. I assume that you all can see my presentation, can see myself. I know not the most pleasant view, and hear myself as well. All right, so I think we are all good to go. So again, I would like to welcome you on our Leading Digital Transformation program. Thank you so much for joining Silicon Valley Innovation Center for this wonderful 5-day program. And as I know, as all of us, we are really changed in 2020, and we have been doing those leading digital transformation program and custom engagements for the last 10 years, really leveraging our knowledge of latest technologies, latest business principles, latest business models, and connecting the world global business ecosystem to the Silicon Valley and everything that goes into Silicon Valley. So on that note, let's just go and switch quickly to our program structure, right? And I think that
Yeah.
our general idea is that we go through sort of like three main goals, three main ideas that we try to put into those programs. And those programs are really trying to bring you the best and the latest from Silicon Valley, from experience from Silicon Valley, both in terms of technology and business practices. So the first thing that we're trying to do in this program is really to inspire you, meaning to show you what is possible, to show you what others have done in a similar field, or maybe just in general, some of the new business models, new business ideas that made Silicon Valley the most successful business ecosystem in the world. But inspiration is just a vision, right? Then our next step is that we're trying to empower you, meaning that we're trying to give you some of the practical advice. How can you take some of those amazing, some of those really inspirational things and transform them to your business, to your space? Because nobody knows business better than you. Nobody knows the challenges and the opportunities that your business have better than you. And then our last step is really to educate, meaning that to give you some of the ideas of and some of the skills and some of the knowledge and some of the business connection that you might leverage in the future to take this inspiration, to take this understanding, what it takes to take this inspiration to the fruition, and then transform it and apply it to your company. Again, it might be the skills that you need as a manager. Maybe you understand that this is some skills that you need on your employees, but in general, we're trying to create a wide variety of content that will provide you with those three major goals in mind, namely inspiration, empowerment, and education. So on that note, let's just go quickly to our program in general. So we're going to have 5 days. The first 3 days on top is going to be this week. It's going to be on Monday, today, Wednesday, and Friday. So today we're going to talk about the innovation strategy. We have two great speakers from our company, and Matthew Grell, who has been doing innovation and venture capital and in general high-tech technology for more than 20 years. Then we're going to go into the panel session on Wednesday. The panel session, we're going to have two very senior speakers from both Cisco and Salesforce. They have been with the companies almost from the very beginning. And we're going to talk about the sort of creating ecosystem for the digital transformation, for the new digital tools. And that conversation is going to be preceded by my small talk, just similar to this, about 30 minutes, where I'm going to talk about the sort of like use cases of innovation. What are some internal resources that you can use? What are some of the practices that have been used across Silicon Valley to drive their business growth? And then we're going to go into the panel discussion, sort of taking what I have summarized into more practical examples and just in the very interview-like fashion. Then on the day 3, this Friday, we're going to talk about the new technologies. We're going to hear from Dell and Cisco about the newest technology and how they transform their client experience themselves and the world around them with the newest technologies. On the day 4, which is going to be next Tuesday, we're going to talk more about the workforce, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about people just in a second, right? But the idea around it is that how do you actually take the workforce that you have, the workers that you have, and transform them to this new environment while keeping them motivated, engaged, and creating the value for you through innovation and creativity. And we're going to end up on the day 5, where we're going to hear from Amazon and Google, very senior people who have been really driving the innovation and growth in their companies through various applications. So in general, again, we just try to go pretty much from inspiration to empowerment and to education. So couple things that we could sort of like have in mind, that what we see, probably the biggest challenge and the biggest driver that we see in the companies around the world, is that the global businesses shift from asset driven to being people driven. Meaning that previously, you in the factory, you need to have machinery, you need to have equipment to manufacture something. In the last, I would say, 10 years, a lot of jobs will move to offices. So the only thing that you needed for your company was the office, was the physical location where all your workers get together. And in 2020, even that pretty much disappeared, right? So majority of us are sitting at home, working and engaging, and we don't even need the office. We just need a computer, we just need a camera, we just maybe need a light. And that's what drives companies around the world. Obviously, you need sort of like people on the ground, but then at the same time, everyone understands that talent is something that drives everything forward. People become a new oil, so to speak, of the 21st century, because everything else could be commoditized, everything else could be done as a service, and I'm going to talk more about it, but it's really just focusing on the people who are within organization. And then I just want to sort of show you something, that this concept of companies being driven by people is nothing new to the Silicon Valley. So this is the screenshot of the investment of the Sequoia venture capital. This is the most successful, most iconic venture capital private equity firm in Silicon Valley. And as you can see, they invested in Apple, they invested in Airbnb, in Google, you name it, right? The most successful, most iconic venture capital firm in the world. And as you can see here, you have the name of the companies, and then you have people. You don't see the technology, you don't see the website, you don't see anything, you really see people. And that's something that Silicon Valley realized a long time ago, that companies are made out of people. And a lot of times, venture capitalists, private equity investors, they're really not betting on technology. They're not really betting on the business idea. They are betting on the people. And that's what we're trying to have here in this program, is that trying to make sure that we give you inspiration and tools for yourself and for your extended team to be a better version of themselves and to learn some of those approaches, because we think that content that we provide is unique. It is really can have a transformative value, but we do require a participation, and we're going to talk a little bit about it in a second. But again, I just want to emphasize that Silicon Valley for the longest time was already sort of like in this virtual mode, where they understand that the people is the main commodity of every business. And then obviously the 2020 did this to us, right? Traditionally, I would be speaking in person, in the room, in our wonderful office in San Mateo, but we cannot do that anymore, right? And on the one side, it is kind of sad. I would really love to get and see you and engage with every one of you, but we're in this situation. But what it gives us is that it gives us opportunity to join it. It gives us this opportunity to work together, being 1,000 miles apart. And people grow more and more acceptable to it. And that creates a really new opportunity, right? Something that I would not be able to connect with you. You would not be able to connect with me before, because of the borders, because of the travel, because of the timings, maybe in general. But this environment creates challenges, but it also creates a lot of opportunities. I already said about the challenges that it creates, right? Is that we are separated, and we need to engage more. We already know the opportunities that we all can speak with each other, we can learn from each other, we can bring you all those companies that I just discussed to you, so you can learn from them. But then on the other side, right, it does provide certain challenges. The one challenge, the big challenge is actually participation. Because here right now, and a lot of our conversation is going to be a monologue, it's going to be a lecture, where a majority of us just sort of project our ideas and project what we have to say. And on the one side, it's good because I already have the material, I know what to say. But then on the other side, I do not engage with you. And some of you, I know, will be super active. Some of you will be a little bit less active. But in order for us, and we do have a 30 minutes allocated for Q&A, you can ask in the middle of the lecture, you can ask in the beginning of the lecture, you can ask at the end of the lecture, but it's on you, please, 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 to take this knowledge, to take those subject matter experts. And you need to understand that whatever they're going to say, is this how they done in Amazon? You're not in Amazon. You need to take what they have done and you need to adopt it to what you're doing here. And you're joining this program, not because you're trying to learn it from the textbook, but because you're trying to learn from the real people. So please, please, please do ask questions. Please think about how can you take this sort of like a textbook knowledge of what Amazon did, ask questions so you can have an idea, this inspiration, empowerment, what it will take to do it in your company. And in order to facilitate those discussions, at the end of each session, so we're going to have 2 speakers or panel session going on. At the end of each session, I'm going to break, depending on how many participants, I'm going to break you down in groups of about 5. So currently we have about 30 participants. So I'm going to break into the 6 rooms, right? So I'm going to break at the end of each session, I'm going to break you into the 6 teams where you can introduce to each other randomly, where you can introduce to each other who you are, what your background is, what you're looking for. And then I will bring everyone together and you will share one thing that you discussed in your group from today's lecture or from today's panel. So every day we're going to finish up in those groups where we're all going to get together in smaller groups where you're going to discuss maybe 1 or 2 things that you thought was really interesting, or maybe thought provoking, or maybe you thought this is never going to work, right? Something that really sparked your emotions, your feedback. And then that's sort of the going to be my way to encourage you to participate in our program and to listen in, because you know that we're going to all join in groups and we will have to talk to each other and see what is happening. So I'm going to stop here. Any questions so far? Because I just want to jump into the skill session, and then just before that, do you have any questions? All right. So let me go quickly over what I think is sort of like skills that we're trying to show you and trying to project throughout this program. So the first one is digital adaptability. What do I mean by that? Is that there's a lot of things happening in the world, right? There's a lot of new technologies, there's a lot of new processes, there's a lot of other things that are happening throughout the world, right? And that's why you're here, because you're trying to learn. But then at the same time, I think what is more important is not to learn a tool or a technology or a business principle. It is important to be able to adapt to this constantly changing environment. And in the biology, the adaptability is that as the environment changes, you need to adapt. You need to be more ready for the environment. And the same thing we're trying to do here. We're just trying to show you several trends, and then once knowing those trends, you'll be able to adapt no matter what this new technology, what this new business principle is. Then we'll try to show you some of the data-driven decisions, meaning that how can you digitize your business, how you can digitize everything that goes in to your operations, into your revenue generations, to actually make a better decisions. Data is extremely important. Data is something that drives everything forward. But then at the same time, we need to understand that how can you use it to actually make those decisions, and what decisions could be made with the use of data. Then the third part that we're going to do is that we're going to talk a little bit about media competency, meaning that once we understand what's happening within our organization, how can we change it to the point where we use it for our own benefit? How can we use the short stories? How can we use the short knowledge of what is happening to inspire our workforce, to drive our customers, to recreate sort of who we are and how our company works. And then probably what is the most important out of all of those three is the agile growth mindset. And I know it's sort of like a little bit buzzwordy, but what do I mean by that? Is that it kind of goes back to this digital adaptability, is that you cannot really predict what is happening, right? We are not talking about the skills that you need to acquire. We are really talking about ability to acquire those new skills, right? So it is just trying to embrace the uncertainty. We don't know what the big next disruptor is. We don't know what is going to happen to, in a year or two. But as long as through the agile methodology, as through the best lessons from the speakers that we're going to hear, we can understand how can we cope with that uncertainty? How can we cope with the understanding that we cannot predict the future? We cannot fully risk manage. That agile mindset is really something that drives Silicon Valley companies forward. They're trying to experiment, they're trying to do it in the very fast way possible, but then they also create their organizations so they can adapt and they can embrace that uncertainty. And obviously the growth mindset is also very important. In the last sort of 6 months since pandemic hit, I have been talking that status quo is dead, right? Whatever you have, a lot of companies when the financial downturn happens, is that they actually go and sort of conserve, right? They're trying to go back to their old self. They're trying to use whatever has worked in the past, but unfortunately, it is not longer the case. If you can look into the S&P 500, if you can look in the stocks around the world, the digital stocks are leading higher. Why? Because they invested into this innovation. They invested into the digital transformation before the pandemic hit, and now they're winning. The same thing here is that you need sort of to be fearful of your current status quo, because if you're not fearful, if you choose to be comfortable, there are those companies around the world that are currently aiming for your business model, that are currently aiming for some of the markets that you might be underserving. So what that means is that either it's going to be some startup that does not have a legacy, that does not have some of the bureaucracy going on, or there's a tech giant with the billions and billions of cash piled up who can go and challenge your status quo. You might be doing the same thing. The same operations, but somebody else, because it is easier than ever to start business or to start a new business line for other big organization. They will come in and they can threaten your survival. Like think about the bookshop. Think about the bookshops in 2000, 2005, 2010. Nobody was afraid of Amazon. Everyone said, okay, we need to do the status quo. We need to get through day by day. But Amazon was innovative. Amazon was growing bigger, stronger. And now time came that they just almost decimated the US retail. So what I'm trying to put here is that really try to stay innovative. The only defense in this environment is offense. So really try to onboard this growth, this innovation, this digital transformation mindset. And really what I think is the most important here is that understand that nobody actually needs innovation. Innovation is like happiness, right? But everyone needs happiness, but nobody can buy happiness. Nobody can sort of come to store and say, hey, give me a 2 pounds or 2 kilos of happiness. For one, it's a vacation. For other one, it is loved ones. For the third one, it's a bottle of wine in the good environment. What is it for you, right? So please do understand through this program, trying to pinpoint what are the things that really, what is the innovation to you? What does it mean in your company to be innovative, to be transformative? So really, as you go through this program, sort of pinpoint some of those things that you can identify, that this is innovation, this is a digital transformation for me, and this is the idea of how I might be doing something similar. So any questions here? I think I've been talking for quite some time, and I just want to make sure that if there are any questions or anything like that. All right. So let's just quickly go to the details. So obviously you all here, you all know where to find the information. We have a learning management system, Adobe Captivate. So I believe that most of you have received the link to the program. And it will have all the schedule, it will have the reading list. We're actually going to update the reading list. throughout the program. We added some additional materials to this reading list. And just, just like a general etiquette as you go in, please mute yourself just when somebody's talking. Obviously when somebody asks, do you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask those questions. Again, please do ask a lot of questions. That is really important for us to be able to sort of gauge your expectations, gauge the speakers, gauge our own talk, right? To make sure that we address your questions. Because again, learning something from Amazon is one thing, right? But you can buy the book, you can probably even find something on YouTube. The value that we bring to you is that really not just learn what the Amazon's innovation is. We're really trying to say what is the digital transformation and the innovation is for your company. And you have access to those subject matter experts from Google's, Amazon's of the world. And the only way you can transform that environment to your company is by asking those questions. Then obviously everything is being recorded, and the recordings will be available within 24, maybe 36 hours. I'm just going to download and upload them to the platform. I already talked about the group breakout sessions. And again, please do share your thoughts and insights on the discussion board, on the LMS, on the WhatsApp chat. Just please do ask. And then one thing is that all the recordings are going to be here. So if you go on the LMS, on the left, there's going to be our social learning platform here. There you can go, and this is where all the recordings are going to be. So any questions? And I see that our first speaker, Andrei Kunov, is already on the line. So do you have any questions?
Hi, Vlas. My name is Judy. Hi.
Hi.
I've joined quite late. I joined maybe just 2 or 3 hours ago, so maybe I just didn't get the LMS.
Oh, okay. Yes. So
they'll send it to me, right?
Yes. I know that some people just joined the very last minute. I will go after this. I will go over and make sure that everyone is added. But again, sometimes you go in spam folder or something like this. Just please do make sure that everything works. And then if you don't get it by the end of my day today, just do let Asta know, and she will relay it to me, and I'll make sure that you've been added.
Sure. Can I also ask, what are the kind of networking opportunities for the group itself? I noticed that, there is a WhatsApp group with about 20 people, but kind of what are the best options for connect?
Exactly. So as I said, and that's why you might be joining a little bit late, is that at the end of each day, we're going to have a breakout session. So we have a breakout rooms where we're going to assign each of the participants in about groups of 5, depending on how many people we have. And then those groups each day, so we're going to have 5 days. After each 5 days, there's going to be different people in different groups. So therefore, you kind of introduce yourself to the group and just say, what did you learn, or what did kind of like spark the interest or spark the feedback inside the program. And that's why we're just trying to make sure that everyone sort of like get to know each other and get to engage with each other and talk with each other. And also I'm just also make sure that everyone is listening and everyone is taking notes. So that way we can sort of build this community as much as we can with this in this environment.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so we have our first speaker, Andre, on the line. Hi, Andre.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you quite well. So let me do a quick introduction for you, and then I will